hitting hammer? I've never heard of a head-hitting hammer.
It's the type of hammer that you hit people on the head with.
Oh, yeah?
A head-hitting hammer.
Right. What does it look like?
Well, you imagine a normal nail-hitting hammer.
Uh-huh, yes, with the prongs at the back.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And they're at the back, okay. So you turn that around so that the prongs are at the front.
Ah,
And
yes.
that's a head-hitting hammer.
Yes, I see now.
Good. Are you ready? On 3, 2, 1.
Colin had a problem and a microphone to spare. Thomas took it up and so the podcast went to air. For weeks and months they trolled through every single DVD. They've unwrapped all the ones they can and now they're cellulose free. Now they're cellulose free.
Hello dear listener and welcome to Cellulose Free. My name is Colin and with me as always is my fellow film watcher, compadre and son, Thomas.
Hi, hello.
What have you been up to?
I sent in my submission, basically the night we recorded, and now it has been received.
You get a notification in the mail with a royal seal with wax.
No, I receive an email with the word official in red caps lock at the top and bottom.
Oh, well that is the equivalent of the wax seal.
Yeah, so my submission has been received and will be considered.
Uh-huh.
And will hopefully be published at some point, but the committee has to approve the publication of every submission that comes through.
Yeah.
And so I am told it may take a week or two, given the volume of submissions received.
Uh-huh.
And this is in spite of it currently not being sitting time.
Yeah. And the fact that absolutely every man and his dog left it till the last minute as well.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is the nature of these things.
I suspect I'm somewhere towards the back of the queue, given my 2-week extension.
Yeah.
So I left it to the last minute plus, 12 days.
Good. But it is in.
Yep.
And not just sent, but you have received acknowledgement that it has been received.
Just now.
Oh, just now?
Yes.
Wow. This is breaking news.
Yeah.
You heard it first on this podcast.
Yeah. So when it is published, I will have said something with parliamentary privilege.
Ooh.
As long as I don't publish it in any other form.
Uh-huh. Right.
Because that would be doing so outside of Parliament.
So we will not see the anime version of it on Netflix anytime soon.
As far as I know, I haven't done anything that would be legally questionable if it wasn't covered under parliamentary privilege, but...
Uh-huh. Good.
Yeah.
I'm now kind of disappointed that there won't be a Netflix anime version of it.
And other than that, not a whole lot.
You did watch some Doctor Who.
I did watch some Doctor Who, and I enjoyed it. It was a good episode all the way through.
Yes, it was. I briefly had to think which episode it was and what happened in it, and it has all come flooding back.
And now that we've seen what someone else can do, we'll see if Russell T Davies can stick the landing, because it's been a little shaky.
It has been a little shaky, yeah. Certainly this week's episode had strong undertones of... now, what was the name of the episode? With the family, with the scarecrows?
The Family of Blood?
That's it. It sort of had vibes of that going on. But anyway, it was good.
Yeah.
Anything else you've been up to?
No, not really. You?
Other than watching that and trying to watch The Acolyte, I'm finding it a bit of a slog. I had absolutely no expectations going in, so that isn't what's being disappointed within me. It's sort of more, it's all right. It's still certainly better than Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan, but it's no Andor. Anyway.
Allow me to repeat an anecdote that I haven't said on the podcast, but have recently to you.
Hang on, let me sit comfortably.
Yeah. So a few weeks back, while I was still plugging away at the inquiry, I received an email from Village Cinemas who were offering me a $7.50 movie ticket, which is pretty reasonable, but I was, still trying to crank out the submission, and so didn't end up doing anything with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking maybe you can go see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which I'm told is alright, and eventually that expired. And a couple of days back, I received another email offering me a $5 movie ticket in the next 2 weeks, which of course comes right as Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is only on at times and places that are inconvenient to me, and indeed the last showing at Eastlands is in about an hour as we're recording.
Right, we'd better wrap this up quickly then. We're going to have to watch the film that we're watching today in triple time.
Yeah.
That should allow us enough time.
No, I don't think that's happening. But I think it's a 20th century release, so it'll show up on Disney Plus at some point.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I must admit that I will probably try and get my hands on it just to complete the set.
Oh, well, good luck with that.
Oh, my goodness. I went into JB today to pick up the newly released on Blu-ray Dunny 2.
Uh-huh.
And grabbed that, and they've moved absolutely everything around.
Yep.
And the DVD/Blu-rays/4K Ultra movies are crammed into a corner. I don't think they've even got lights in that corner of the... And it's just been taken up with kitchen appliances, which I know that the other store across the river has got, and it's a thing that JB does, but that store hasn't typically had such things.
Well, I say good luck because as a 20th Century Studios release, it's under Disney, who aren't doing home video in Australia.
Okay. So they're stretching it right across the board.
As far as I'm aware.
We have to import it from somewhere.
I'm not surprised to hear that the 4K Ultra HD releases are tucked away in a corner, because I get the impression that nobody much is interested in 4K.
Oh no, all of it is jammed into one corner.
Oh, all of it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, everywhere the DVDs and the TV series and what have you, everything's been stuffed into a corner against a wall, and that's been replaced with...
Right.
Yeah, food mincers and Romba vacuum cleaners and things like that. Shavers. Yeah, I was stunned and a little shook. I mean, I knew it was going to happen, but yeah, it seems somewhat obscure to me that there seems to be more shelf space assigned to vinyl now. How does that make sense? In that the technology, the excitement of CDs when they came out just absolutely killed vinyl, and debatable, but I think absolutely rightly so. We certainly had a reasonable vinyl playing setup growing up, but absolutely blown out of the water by CDs, so completely understandable. This Emperor's New Clothes thing of let's all get back into vinyl, thinking, oh, it sounds better, as they pay $80 for an LP and play it on a record player that is absolute trash. Not an absolute embarrassment. It is the equivalent of the worst of the last record players that I used to sell.
Yep.
And they're thinking, oh, this is much better than CD. They have just had the wool completely pulled over their eyes, and it is such a hipster thing. Unless you're paying huge amounts of money for a record player sound system, you're not even going to get anywhere near close to CD quality.
Well, at least you can theoretically find a good record player out there. As far as cassettes go, there is one mechanism which is widely agreed to suck.
It'd be really, really bad.
Yeah.
And it's in absolutely anything that claims to be able to play tapes. these days.
You see Kickstarters all the time for a new cassette player that
with Wi-Fi
that will be better than all the old cassette players, and of course it has the same absolutely terrible mechanism.
Yep. I suggest heading your way to TechMoan on YouTube, who covers quite a few tape players. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
There's certainly more space allocated to keeping the hipsters happy with their vinyl than movie media, which I think has far, far, far more merit being able to buy in physical form. I mean, just the other day I was looking at what's coming to, I think it was Netflix, and sort of jumped onto checking that out. And on the very same page, the number of things that leaving Netflix soon, and you think there's just absolutely no permanency.
No.
Anyway, it's a bugbear. And
I am now, of course, looking through what's showing at Village Cinemas now, and it's like, yeah.
Next week you'll get an email from them saying, we will pay you $5 to go to see a movie. Please, we want bums on seats. Oh, am I allowed to say that?
Oh, okay. They've added a couple more showings in the future section, which are, of course, at 9 p.m, which is even worse.
Oh, dear. Because it's probably about 2.5 hours long, I reckon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
145, I think. 145, I think I read.
Yeah. Yes, so I do have Dunny 2 on physical media, and the only other thing that springs to mind as far as my week is concerned is that Daniel decided to start rewatching Hornblower, and I got sucked into that because it's just so eminently watchable.
Yep.
Great show. And I cannot believe, speaking of physical media, the years and years and years and years that I had it on DVD in 4:3 format.
Yep, the US format.
Well, that's how it was also broadcast here.
Yep.
No idea that it was actually filmed in 16:9, and got myself a copy of that fairly recently on Blu-ray, and it is wonderful. It holds up really, really well. So that's fun. Anyway, speaking of fun, we have a fun old film to watch. I say that with very, very little recollection of how I actually feel about this. So it will be an eye-opener. What are we watching this week?
We are watching the 2009 Astro Boy.
Based on the anime series that has been sort of off and on being made since 1963, I think.
Which was itself based on a manga.
And made by the same guy who put out the Lion King ripoff in the 1960s. Oh, hang on, that doesn't work, does it? Kimber the White Lion. Interpret that how you like. Anyway, please tell our dear listener what the plot synopsis on the back of the DVD case says.
Blast off with Astro Boy, the thrilling tale of a true hero. In futuristic Metro City, scientist Tenma creates an amazing robot boy with hidden talents unlike anything you've ever seen. Astro Boy has super strength, X-ray vision, incredible speed, and the ability to fly. But what he really wants is to know where he belongs. When the world needs saving, he'll discover he was made for the challenge.
Actually, that's a pretty good write-up because it does not divulge very large plot points in this story. So that's what we're watching. Thomas is going to open the case. He's going to take the disc out of its case, which I hope is actually in there.
It is.
Because I didn't check. Good. And he's going to put it into the machine. You got a sound effect for that? Oh dear, it sounds like there's a scratch on it. We're going to watch it, and we shall come back and talk about it, so we shall catch you on the flip side.
Turn to side B, where you will find a shiny surface. Don't put it in upside down. Why would you do that?
Isn't that an interesting point, though? Is side A the actual shiny surface, or is side B the shiny surface? Because all the data is on the shiny surface, so technically that should be side A, shouldn't it?
And then it gets complicated when you introduce DVDs with data on both sides.
Yes, You've got a couple of those.
Yeah. Muppets from space?
Yeah, I think that one had it.
Yeah, I know it does have it.
Yeah.
Is it Muppets in Space or Muppets from Space?
Muppets in Space, I think.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now you've got me.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, dear listener, we're about to go down another rabbit hole.
From Space.
From Space?
Yeah.
Okay. What is Gonzo? Anyway. Roll the tape, you mongrel. So, what did you think?
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's serviceable, I think is the phrase that keeps running through my head.
Mm-hmm.
It's serviceable. And I do confess that memory-wise, even though I didn't have a great memory of it, I seem to recall it looking a little more impressive than it did.
That would have been some years ago, though.
Yeah, but it was very Spartan in places. And the animation was, again, serviceable. I do think that I have no idea how much this film cost and whether it recouped those costs.
It did not.
That was my suspicion. But I suspect most of its budget actually went on the big-name voices. So obviously you've got Nicolas Cage, you've got Freddie Highmore, who wasn't quite as famous then as he is now, but he was up and coming. Kristen Bell, Nathan Lane, Eugene Levy, Matt Lucas, Bill Nighy, Donald Sutherland, Charlize Theron, and, yes, Nicolas Cage. All big names. So tell me, do you have the cost versus...
Okay, so budget, $65 million.
Right.
So bump that up a bit.
Yeah.
$42 million at the box office.
Oh.
And ultimately sunk the studio.
Okay. Yeah. I did a little bit of research whilst I was watching it, just to place it in the timeline of movies that I remembered around that time. So WALL-E came out a year before.
Yeah.
And my memory of that, it's been a while since I've watched that too, but my memory of that is that it is sweet looking. More so in the first half than the second half, but sweet looking. And then a year after Astro Boy, How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
And wow. As far as the motion and the sweeping through waterfalls and things like that, and that was the first thing that sprang to my mind, was that, did this come out around that time? Because really, you've got this sense of flight and motion going on in this film that just doesn't move me. Whereas a year later, How to Train Your Dragon comes out, and that's just epic. And beautiful and solid. Whereas Astro Boy is maybe a notch above your Saturday morning 3D animated.
Yeah.
I do suspect they were going for a certain aesthetic.
Yeah.
There was definitely an Art Deco flatness but rounded edges type of feel going on, and whether they were trying to keep it grounded in the original anime or what, but it just was flat.
Yeah.
There were crowd scenes that looked like a copy and paste of the same crowd with maybe a 48 frame repeat cycle of their waving. It just did not feel like a high production value production. But it's still serviceable. It was, 93 minutes long, I think, and kept that pace going, and story-wise was engrossing enough. But the same could be said for a good Saturday morning TV show. It's just...
I mean, you say that, but I think it could have been edited a little tighter.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Edited a little tighter, or had it been padded to actually make it a movie length. There's expansion and trimming. Yeah. My one major note was when he was being activated.
Yeah.
And all of those electrical cables came down to pick him up into the air. He suddenly looked like a Pinocchio puppet.
Yeah.
I was just wondering whether that was deliberate.
I feel like it would have to be.
I think so too. Yet another homage to Pinocchio. and becoming a real boy. Do you have anything else you wish to say about...
No, not really.
Well, that's a very short segment.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you did suggest it, because it's now more fresh in my mind as to, it's not a bad film, but it's not a great film.
Nope.
And I don't know whether it's being cruelly unfair to compare it to Wall-E and How to Train Your Dragon on either side of it. It's just a very slight film in between those two.
And like How to Train Your Dragon just kept getting better as more films came out.
It's bizarre, isn't it? Unlike Ice Age. Sorry. Don't know where that came from. All right, so you have nothing else to say?
No.
All right, we shall move on then.
The following segment has no title. Thank you. And we will start over on Discord with Entuosferatu.
Hi, Entuosferatu.
Who says, I was too old for it by the time we got it, but the US got segments of Thomas the Tank Engine in Shining Time Station, with Ringo Starr as Mr. Conductor.
Mm-hmm.
He was then replaced by George Carlin on a kids' show, which is about the same level as having Greg Proops as the American voice of Bob the Builder.
Okay, I confess that I am completely ignorant. Both of those names do not jump out at me, but are obviously very familiar American actors. So George Carlin was a comedian who was, I think the best point of reference has to be his routine on the 7 words that you must not use on television. Right. Good.
So he's very, for the time, a very edgy comedian.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to get my head round the idea of making an American dub for Thomas the Tank Engine. I was aware of how it had been slotted into a larger show, which is quite... I don't know whether it's got to do with local content, getting funding and things like that. I don't know. But even more concerning is the fact that Bob the Builder had an American accent. I just...
Yeah.
Okay, so put Greg into context for me.
Greg Proops. Didn't really know him beforehand, but another stand-up comedian.
Right.
Did a lot of Who's Line.
Right, fair enough.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was Doc Martin that did the Bob the Builder voice. Wasn't it Martin
UK?
Clunes? Was it Martin Clunes?
Let's see.
Or am I just making that up?
No, Neil Morrissey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What am I thinking of? Don't
know.
I'll cut that completely out so that I don't embarrass myself then.
And then, also on Discord, E of Pie.
Hi, E of Pie.
Says, I was like the perfect age for Thomas and I absolutely ate it up. I still kind of do, honestly. The depth of the world building Audrey did is something I rediscovered coming back to the setting as an adult during COVID.
Yeah.
The way he works in the history of railroading and the like.
Yep.
Yeah, no, he really knew his stuff.
I was, as a child, an absolute train freak. It was before I got into space.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time we'd go to the library and would get Thomas the Tank Engine books because each of them were released in separate books. I absolutely loved it and certainly have the complete works in a large book format on the shelf, which is a really awkward way of actually reading them because the images are quite small. But I would pore over them as a kid and absolutely wonderful.
I can remember dragging out the big omnibus.
Yep.
It was a heavy thing.
Yeah, and I remember dragging it out to read to you guys and having to put the voices on. Having to do a Ringo Starr.
If Pie continues, if it's Thomas, are both the P and the H silent, so Thomas, or can the T be silent and the P and the H go F and it's Thomas?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because, as you recall, it evolved from pterodactyl, and there's no H there. So We briefly toyed with the idea when we converted from Thomas to Thomas that it wouldn't have an H, which is a lesser used version of Thomas. But because it's lesser used, we thought we'd go for the more common one so that he wouldn't have to spell it quite so often. So we replaced the silent P with a silent H.
And so now the only thing that I have to spell regularly is my last name.
Yeah.
Because it seems like... Well, no, because I've always spelt it out.
Yeah.
It's never really been a problem, but, you know, I've heard that a lot of Czech.
Yes. Yeah. I went through a phase where I'd say chick, and they'd look at me strangely, and I'd say as in rooster.
Right.
Okay. C-H-I-C-K. Yeah.
Yeah, no need to make them make that leap. I just spell it out and it works.
Yeah.
Now this movie, AFPI continues, probably referring to Blanc Sec.
Yeah.
I had never heard of and seems kind of wild. I wonder if my mum has seen it.
Oh, look, if you can get your hands on it, watch it with your mum. Oh, except for there's brief female nudity, which may make you blush in front of your mother. The French.
Not quite played up as much as the French seem to do, but it is there.
It was casual nudity. It wasn't blatant pornographic direction. It was just the way that it was. Yeah, and brief.
Over on Twitter, M.
Hi, M.
Says, during the intro, I thought, that's silly, you can't talk about Doctor Who in the credits. Imagine my surprise when the credits rolled. Imagine my surprise when I find out about this. Because I don't listen back.
You don't listen back? No. I thought it worked quite well, actually.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to have to listen to it now.
Great.
Yeah.
Plus, I guess I took my own advice when writing my contribution last week. I did not check what you were referring to.
The contribution was about...
leaving things to the last minute, right,
yes.
Yes. Which will take us up to the guesses.
It will.
For which we have two.
We do.
M.
Hi. Oh, no, I've done that. Hi anyway, M.
Has submitted The Delebs, Dadelebs, presumably basing that on the French...
Yes.
title.
Yep.
It's not correct.
No.
Because, for starters, he was working off the English title.
Yep.
But it's just not correct. Sorry. Yeah. M also provided a guess from Angel.
Hi, Angel.
Who provided Blanc Sec, which is a perfectly reasonable guess.
Look, if I had my time again, which is somewhat foreshadowing, that is an ideal one.
Yeah.
I really like that one. Great guess, Angel.
An incorrect guess.
Yes, as the foreshadowing foreshadowed, an incorrect guess. So nobody got it this week.
The correct answer was, of course, Adl Blanc, Adlblanc, which I did think was, possibly guessable, but...
Which, in an interesting twist of fate, brings us to the encouragement that we give you once more, keeping in mind that this week's episode was Astro Boy.
I wonder what he's knocked out.
I don't know. If you're wanting a very easy arbitrary point, then this is your moment to shine.
Yeah.
Please guess what I've selected as the file name for this week's episode. And also, if you have any film suggestions that you can recommend for us to give a visit to, then please do so.
Or just any other comments.
Yeah.
We do appreciate them.
You can comment on my grey hair, which is somewhat odd considering this is a audio-only podcast.
Yeah.
You can't see it.
Yeah.
You can comment on the high-speed car chase going on up along the highway at the moment.
Can you think what would be needed in order to make this a reasonable video podcast? We need 3 cameras.
Oh, and a drone.
I don't think we need a drone. I think we'd be okay on that.
I do have 3 cameras.
I know you have 3 cameras. Do you want to set up 3 cameras?
No, I do not want to set up 3 cameras. I cannot imagine doing so.
And one of them would have to go in front of the TV, so it'd have to come away and be set back up again.
Yeah.
So we'd have to spike the floor.
Yes, it's doable, but it's not happening.
Oh, and editing the multicam.
Well, the piece of software that I use for editing does have a multicam feature, so I could just switch between shots fairly easily. But it's not happening.
No.
So you are not going to see my grey hair, that one there, on this podcast.
Yes, specifically that grey hair.
Yeah, the only grey hair. How did we get here? Oh, asking for contributions.
Yeah.
Send them in.
Go on.
On the usual places that are listed in the show notes. We waffle on. Let's move on.
Pick a film for next week so we can go to bed. It's your turn.
It is my turn. However, as I mentioned before, asking for contributions, suggestions for films that we might consider, I've managed to get my hands on something.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. A film that has been suggested by our dear listener, Entu Osferatu.
Okay.
So, I'm going to read you a plot synopsis. In fact, I might grab the case to said DVD. Here's one I prepared earlier.
Yeah.
And hope that I can read it. And you're going to have to see if you can guess what it is by my reading. Without looking. Don't look. You're peeking. I should get you to read it because I can't see. Okay, it's a richly imagined, wildly inventive animated treat.
Is that a pull quote in big text?
No, the quote in big text is impossible to describe, impossible to forget.
Right.
Yeah. It battled Finding Nemo for the 2003 Best Animated Feature Film.
Uh-huh. A category notable for its very intellectual voters.
Its mix of colourful characters and fantastic imagery caused critics to declare, "There is more imagination in this film's 80 minutes than in all other films I've seen this year put together." And it does say who that was quoted from.
I know we discussed this film just a few weeks ago, but
yes.
I have forgotten what it is called.
Okay. It's a one-of-a-kind movie event destined to charm all ages. The Triplets of Belleville is a wonderful reminder of the pure, unadulterated joy that movies can, but so rarely do, deliver.
Is there an actual plot synopsis anywhere?
No, see, that's what I was digging for.
Yeah.
Okay, plot synopsis. Let's grab a plot synopsis from somewhere on the internet. I did find one, but I don't know whether it's going to give away too much. This animated film follows elderly Frenchwoman Madame Souza as she becomes involved in international intrigue when her grandson, Champion, a professional cyclist, is kidnapped and taken abroad. Joined by her faithful dog Bruno, Souza embarks on a journey to find Champion and stumbles across unlikely allies in the form of three sisters who are veterans of the vaudeville stage. Tracking down Champion's criminal captors, the quartet of old women use their wits to try and win the day.
Right. Wow. This is some lazy authoring.
It really is lazy authoring.
So it's Region 4, which I think is correct for here.
Yes, it is.
And it is all Australian packaging. Mm-hmm. But it's in NTSC.
Yep. Which was quite common and frustrating back in the days where it actually really mattered. Mm-hmm. I always tended to have a DVD player that would play NTSC films, but your television also had to be able to do that. And I was fortunate in that was the case too, at least when these DVDs were coming out. But yeah, lazy authoring indeed. But next week, we're watching The Triplets of Belleville. We hope that you can join us. But until then, we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
You have been listening to Cellulose Free. Your hosts were Colin, who produces and edits the show, and Thomas, who makes the artwork and music. Cellulose Free is recorded in the Deranged Cat Studios in scenic Tasmania, Australia. We keep track of our extensive physical media collection through My Movies, which we highly recommend. You can find links to that, as well as other places you can find us, in the show notes. Cellulose Free is a Hi Hello production.
No, that's why it comes in. That's why the language options are only English and Spanish, because of course it is an American release that has just been re-regioned and sent over here, isn't it?
Yeah. English and Spanish. Yes, I went through that very thought process of thinking, what? Not even French?
Yeah, because it's clearly a French film, but of course they wouldn't send the original audio over to America, would they?
No, we couldn't have that. Strange old. Anyway, I'm stopping. But next week, we're watching The Triplets of Belleville. Belleville?